Hi guys, I hope you have your SAB and your homework journals out before we get started. This lesson is going to be a little funky today only because it's really long, so I've decided to split it up over 2 days, and this should be the last lesson of the week. So that means I am only going to have you do a certain amount of work today, and we will wrap up the rest on next week whenever you decide to do so, just because they're two big concepts all in one small lesson. So I'm going to jump right in, but I would like you guys to make sure you pay attention to what I tell you to do to show your work later on, since it might be a little different. This is lesson 7-2, so maybe open up to that in your SAB, and it's called Fractions on the Number Line, but it also has some benchmark fractions. That's the part that I think needs more of a lesson, so we'll do that next week. So we're going to start first with this page. Yours should look similar to mine, and I'm going to dive right in. So this says, discuss number lines. The number line below shows the fourths between 0 and 1. Discuss how the number line is like and unlike the fraction bar above it. Well, let's talk about what they're indicating up here. This is your fraction bar right here, and this is your number line. Number lines are not something that you guys always love to draw, but I will tell you it's a really good visual of how to work with fractions, and this fraction bar and the number line actually showcase kind of what they're talking about. So I want you to imagine that we're talking about like a distance here. So let's say that you are traveling an entire mile. Well, this could maybe split up your mile into quarter mile increments. Excuse me, I'm having some issues today. Some quarter mile increments, okay? And this number line shows you the exact same thing. So to travel from here to here would be a quarter mile, quarter mile, quarter mile, and quarter mile, and altogether 4 quarter miles, which is the exact same thing as 1 mile. Okay. Another thing that we had actually talked about before, you guys did a really good job of helping me with this. If we were going to draw a number line, something like that, between 0 and 1, and we wanted to cut it up into fourths, we actually end up only drawing 3 lines rather, because that creates your 1, 2, 3, 4. Those were not equal, but you get the idea. Okay. So let me get back to my pen, and because this lesson has a lot going on, I actually need to make the line a little thinner. So apologies for that. But now let's actually look at this number line. This one's a little different than the one above, because you'll notice that this one actually goes from 0 to 5. So this is a pretty long number line. They've split it up a lot of times, and it's going from 0 to 5. This one also goes from 0 to 5, and this one also goes from 0 to 5, but you can tell that there's a lot more going on, say, on this bottom one than there is on this one on the top. So this line on the top is simply cut into halves. Every single one of these lines is another group of a half. Well, on these lines, every line represents a fourth. Every one of these lines represents a fourth. And then on this line, every one of these little lines represents an eighth. So it's kind of cool to see here. They're actually showing you something that we're going to be talking about in the future, which is equivalent fractions. And this is getting a little ahead of ourselves, but what it's kind of showing you is something we talked about briefly in class before this all went down, is that 1/2 is the same as 2/4, which is the same as 4/8. Well, when we get down to something like this here on this line also, they're also showing you the improper fraction, which is when your numerator is bigger than your denominator, and they're also showing you on that same section your mixed number, because you've got a whole number as well as a fraction. Okay, so that shows me that we have a lot to look at. So I'm going to erase some stuff so you can see a little bit more clearly. Okay, so let's look at our first line and what exactly it wants us to pay attention to. Okay, so it says these number lines are divided to show different fractions. And then we've got, like I said, 0 halves, 1/2, 2 halves, 3 halves, and so on, all the way up to 10 halves. Well, and 10 halves is the exact same as 5. Same thing's going on with our fourths. 1, 2, 3, 4 fourths makes a whole, and then you've got 4 more fourths to make 2 wholes, and so on, all the way up to 5. And then same with our eighths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 eighths makes 1 whole, and then you keep going till you get to 2 wholes all the way up to 5. or 5 holes, okay? So this one wants us to use these two symbols to make a true statement. So on these ones, we are actually going to try and compare using these number lines. So this first one says 3/4. So we need to come to our fourths line, which is right here, and I'm going to make a little blue line there. And then it wants it to compare it to 5/2. Well, 5/2 happens to be right here, and that shows me that 5/2 is definitely going to be greater than 3/4. Let's look now at number 2. It's got 15/4. So again, I'm going to come along here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14. Here's my 15/4. So I'm going to put a green line there. And then it's my 28ths. So now I need to come down to this line. 0, 4, 8, 12, 16, and there's 28ths. So that shows me that my 15/4 is actually greater than the 28ths. Then I have number 3. It's talking 10/4 and 24/8. So let's do 10/4 first. We're going to follow along our number line. Here is 10/4 right here. And then it talks about 24/8. So we're going to come along here and we're going to find where it gets to 24. And it looks like 24/8 is just a little smidge bigger. And then finally, we've got some mixed numbers. Now, I can already tell that this one's larger because 2 is greater than 1, but we should still, check it for sure. So this one is telling me 2 and 4/8. So I'm going to come over here and find 2 and 4/8, which is actually this one right here. And then also 1 and 3/4. So there's 1 and 3/4. So we were correct. Your 2 and 4/8 is larger. So the last thing that it wants you to do on this page, I'm going to get rid of all those, is it actually wants you to go and look at these letters and tell me what fraction it is. But you need to not only tell me the fraction, you also need to tell me the mixed number. So we're going to look at both of them. So let's start with A first. Well, what's happened between every other 2 whole numbers? It goes from 3 to 4, and what's in between the 2 is 3.5. So that means if I'm halfway between 4 and 5, that's going to be 4.5. And then I also need to pay attention to my improper fractions. Here I've got numbers that go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then this right here would have been 9. So 4.5 is the same as 9/2. This might be a good opportunity for you to pause and try the rest. I know it's hard, but try the rest and see what you come up with. So again, I'd like you to pause and try those out before I go ahead and just give you those answers. So letter B is right over here, and it's between 1 and 2/4, which makes me think that that's going to be 1 and 1/4. And then if I were to pay attention to my improper fraction, that right there would be 5/4. Okay? And then I'm going to make my line skinny again. So for C, that's this guy right here. And it's showing me 2 and 2/4, and then it goes straight to 3. So if I'm counting by fourths, I just need one more fourth, which is 2 and 3/4. And then I'm going to look at my improper fractions. I'm going to go from 10 to 11. So that would be 11/4. Okay, I'm going to go a little faster this time. This guy's going to be 4.25, and then also 17/4. Letter E is less than 1, so this one's actually 1, 2, 3/8. So there's no reason to write a whole number. Oh, geez. No reason to write a mixed number on that one because it doesn't make a mixed number. Same with letter F. Letter F is only 7/8, so not large enough to have a mixed number. Letter G is going to be 2 and 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, so that's going to be 2 and 7/8, and it will also be 23/8. And then finally for H, we're somewhere between 4 and 4.8, so that's going to be 4, 1, 2, so that's going to be 4 and 3/8, and it will also end up being 32, 33, 34, 35/8. That's a lot of fractions all in one problem. All right, so let's look on to the next page. This is actually the last one that I'm going to do with you today, and then I'm going to show you what your assignment is. So this is just showing you a different kind of number line. This first one wants you to figure out, actually all 3 of them want you to figure out what you're counting by and then label them. So we're going to do this work. I want you guys to do this in your journal along with me today. So make sure you've got your pencils ready. We first need to figure out what goes on this line is what it's counting by. So if I have this number line here for number 6, from 0 to 1, it looks like there are 1, 2, 3 equal pieces. So that means that these lines are going to be cut into thirds, or 3 equal parts. let's just go ahead and answer that for 7 and 8 as well. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal parts. And then finally for number 8, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 equal parts. So that will have a 9 right there. For the rest of this assignment, we need to label every line, and yes, this is something that I want you to do, so you should have your pencil ready to go. I will try not to move too fast, but good news, it's a video, so you can pause it whenever you want to. So, like we said, this first part is thirds, so on the top of the line, we are going to write the improper fraction, and on the bottom of the line, we're going to write the mixed number, but we don't have to worry about that for this first part, because it's only an improper fraction, because, actually, it's not even improper, it's just a fraction. So, if we think about our jumps, this is going to be 1/3, 2/3, and then 3/3. So we're going to label this as 1/3, 2/3, and then 3/3. Oh my gosh, why did I write fourths? That's funny. Sorry guys. So that's going to be 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3. And this already is labeled here for a 1 for us, so we're good. But now the rest of the time, we're going to want to pay attention to those mixed numbers as well. So first, let's do our improper fractions. This is going to be 4/3, 5/3, and 6/3. And as far as improper fractions go, this one is like 1, and then you're going 1 more third as well. So this is going to be 1 1/3, 1 2/3, and then this one's going to be 2. It's already got the 2 labeled, so we're good there. I'm going to keep going with my improper fractions. This should be 7/3, 8/3, 9/3, and I'm just going to keep cruising. 10/3, 11/3, 12, 13, 14, and 15. I know this is slightly painful. I won't make you do this all the time, but it's good practice for today. So then let's look at our our mixed numbers. So right here we have 2, and it's going to be 1/3 and then 2/3. So it's 2 1/3 and 2 2/3. For number 3, same deal. We're going to go 3 1/3 and 3 2/3. And hopefully this should seem easy now. 4 1/3, 4 2/3. So you'll notice something that I think might be helpful to see. These numbers that are between 3 and 4 have a 3 as their mixed number. And then the numbers between 4 and 5, for example, have 4 at the beginning of their mixed number. So it all just depends on where you are along your number line, what you're going to label. So the same thing's going to go for sixths. I'm actually going to only label part of this because that's going to be the rest of your assignment today, is partially doing some of this labeling yourself. So we're going to do between 2 and 3 for sixths, and we're also going to do between 2 and 3 for ninths, okay? So this is actually going to end up being 12 sixths. You'll see better when you actually go to do this yourself. And then we're going to keep counting with our improper fractions. 13 sixths, 14 sixths, and so on. I'm just going to cruise here. You can always pause the video or look at it again when we're all done, because I'm trying to squeeze that all in there, which is kind of hard. So there's 18 sixths there. But then as far as our improper fractions goes, I did it again. As far as our mixed numbers goes, that's a 2, and this is 1 sixth, 2 and 2 sixths, 2 and 3 sixths, and so on. Okay? I apologize, I'm watching the clock. I gotta stop there. Just so you guys know, this is something that I want you to do. I want you to go and I want you to label these. I need you to label for questions 7 and 8. So this is the last thing you're going to do today. After you've labeled questions 7 and 8, you are going to try 9 through 12 all on your own, and you're going to use the number lines that you just labeled. The number lines you labeled are going to help you solve 9 through 12, okay? This page that talks to you about, oh, I lied. This is another good one for you to try. Sorry, guys. It says, mark and label the letter of each fraction or mixed number on the number line. I want you to try. We're going to grade this one together on next week when we do a lesson, okay? So try that one as well. But this is the other part that I wanted to show you. These are the next 2 pages in your SAB, and you don't have to do them yet. So I'm going to write not yet, okay? So we'll come to those eventually, just not at this very moment. And this should be your final lesson. So I just told you what it is that I want you to do. You don't even have to worry about the homework. It's okay to also do the IXL if you want, but I really need you to finish up those SAB pages. We're going to grade some of them together, so try those on your own, okay? Log into Zoom if you need help.